All right. Welcome to the Ebb and Flow podcast, where we merge holistic wellness and Hasidic wisdom. I'm very excited. Also felt nervous the past few days because it's the first time, actually in my own studio. One time I had a guest, and I was invited to her studio, but this is the first time I wanted to really take it to the next level. And I'm visited today by Rabbi Chay Amar. Welcome, Rabbi. Thank you for taking the time.
It's a pleasure to be here. Baruch Hashem, the opportunities.
Yes, we have a exciting event I'm going to join by you tonight.
Correct.
Here in Brooklyn. It also happens to be Ed-based Tammuz. So I'd love to hear a little bit about yourself and perhaps even all the work that you do with meditation, with breath work, Chassidus, and even connecting it with the Yud-based Tammuz, like we were talking on our walk over here to the studio.
On one foot?
Sure, or two. You can choose which foot.
Or no feet. So, what do I do? Well, first and foremost, I'm a shliach. And Baruch Hashem, over the last 26 years, we built a community from nothing to something, with obviously the koiches, the blessings, and the direction of the Rebbe. And today we have a very thriving community with 2 minyanim on Shabbos, one Sephardic, one Ashkenaz. So between both of them, we have 200-300 people that pray with us every Shabbat. On every morning, we have 3 minyanim. We have a yeshiva. We have all the things that a Chabad house offers. And I've been working for years with breath work, more than 25 years. And especially in the last few years, I got more into it as a means, not as a goal, not as a purpose, right? Because a lot of people get mixed up and they think that the whole purpose is to be in a meditative state and to breathe all day. We breathe all day, but there's the purpose of breathing is to, calm yourself down, like the Rabbi writes, and basically to make a keli, to make a vessel, to be able to be more focused, and especially in our generation where even people which are not born with ADHD, they will become ADHD just because of the overload of information and where you put your head. So I believe that this all started with me getting attached to older Chassidim that I saw myself pray for hours and say the words and repeat the words and get very enthused by the words, have a real relationship with God in prayer. And that really turned me on as a yeshiva bacher. I was not coming from a Chabad background. So when I first encountered this, I felt something special. And I'll express it with something that happened just this past Shabbos. This past Shabbos, I had a gentleman from Lakewood. And I said, if you're more comfortable, we could pray in the other minyan. Why do you want to pray with us? He says, because here I feel that people already enjoy praying. They enjoy the process. He says, where I come from, he told me, it seems that people are just paying a choiv. They're paying their debt. Paid my dues. Okay, I can go on to what's really important. Limud HaTorah and everything else. And I feel that when I come to your shul, that's one of the biggest compliments. He said, people are so excited by davening. It's a whole avodah, it's a whole service. There's joy. There's a lot of involvement, and that's what I saw by these Alter Chassidim. And then when I got close to Chassidus, I realized that this is the whole foundation of who we are, right? When we talk about Chabad, Chochma, Bina, Das, right? Wisdom, understanding, and clarity, focus, connection, bonding, right? It's about how much you're involved, right? Everything that you do in your Avodas Hashem is important. There's no secondary thing. If you're a big Talmid Chacham, you're somebody. And if you're not, you're nobody. No. I personally wasn't very friendly with the Gemara or even Likutei Sichos when I was in yeshiva. I didn't like Likutei Sichos when I was in yeshiva, actually. I liked Ma'amarim, Gemara, okay. But davening, Chassidus, and thinking, that was extraordinary. It's only later that I took a big taste in learning Gemara, in learning Siches, because, but that's a whole discussion. I don't know if you want me.
Yeah, perhaps first we can dive into kind of the difference between like the vodav tefillah and davening and prayer and meditation, because it seems, at least like how I first got into practicing meditation, like when we spoke for the first time on the phone, even before growing in Judaism and learning Chassidus, was as a mean to, well, for one, like mental performance, because I played basketball in college, but also to break a habit. I used to bite my fingernails, and to like really as a way to get beyond the analytical mind and into the body. And so, I remember learning and hearing different stories of like the Baal Shem Tov and great Hasidim, like you're even saying, or perhaps, even greater, because they're the ones which we have all Chassidus based on. But it's usually when somebody gets into these practices, it's more than just kind of calming the nerves. It's like really getting through different trauma that's in the body. So with that, like what's the real difference, and how did that transition to you to really get into like now conducting the breath work and meditation, where that is getting people beyond the thinking brain and into the neocortex, where they can get to the place where the body naturally, from Hashem, naturally heals itself?
Oh, a lot of stuff. So I'm going to tell you that first of all, there's different types of meditations. Okay, and Ayom Yom it talks about the meditation that you have when you study Torah and you want to review and understand to the great depth what you're understanding. There's the meditation of a piece of Chassidus, then there's the meditation of the godliness which is in the Chassidus, and then there is my personal implication in that. So I'm going to quote a Chassid that I had the schus when he was a young man. He was 90 years old at the time. He lived to 106. Rabbi Yudol Chitrik, Zecher Chassid Livrocha, Tzadik Livrocha, a real special Yid, that at the age of 100, with his chayas in 770, when he would learn Shulchan Aruch with his chavrusa, he would have more chayas than a 20-year-old bacher. I remember it was something very, very special, that vitality and energy. So I asked him, when I came to Miami Beach in Tafshin Nun Gimel in 1993, the Rebbe sent me to Miami. So I was looking for Chassidus, and it happens to be that for the winter he came to Miami Beach. So I was to go to his apartment. He used to teach me Chassidus, and I popped the question. I asked him, Rabbi Yudol, was meint trachten Chassidus? What does it mean to think Chassidus? What's his beinenus? We talk about it, but what is it? So he said that when he was a young man, he came in Yechidus with the Frierdiker Rebbe, and he asked, what is thinking Chassidus? And the Frierdiker Rebbe answered the following. He said, what you learned, how does it relate to you personally in your personal life? That's thinking Chassidus. I just saw that when the Frierdiker Rebbe would do Chazara, he would go into the Rebbe Rashab's office. Today's Yud Beis Tigmel Tammuz, the birthday of the Frierdiker Rebbe, the Geula of the Frierdiker Rebbe. And actually my Chassidish birthday, it's my first time that I met the Rebbe was on a Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz. Wow. And I got special attention. We could talk about it later, but anyway, special attention from the Rebbe, something out of this world. What happens is that the Frierdiker Rebbe would go into the Rebbe Rashab and chazer the Maimer, word by word. And the Rebbe Rashab says, "Nu in eigene Wörter," and in your own words now. Meaning, thinking Chassidus, when we talk about davening and everything, is how does this apply to me? How is it in my own words? How is that going to change my vision? There is a pitgam, there is a saying amongst Chassidim that I very much love. It says in Pirkei Avos, the world was created with 10 sayings. So the Mishnah asks, with one saying, God could have created the whole world. The word leibarot, which means to create, comes from the word as well, briut, which is health, which is gesund. Maimer could be a saying or could be a maimer, Chassidish maimer. says, Maimer echod yochol liboris. Mit ein Maimer kann man sein gesund. With one Maimer of Chassidus, which is essence, pure godly essence, yochol liboris, you can become gesund. You can become healthy mentally, healthy in every possible way. So one of the things when I was a mashpia in the Yeshiva Ktana we opened in Miami Beach in 1993, 94, I used to teach the Bachrim and do it myself to live with a mimer. First of all, if you really want to meditate and contemplate on a mimer, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes that in the olden days, or he said it, in the olden days, people would have very, very little svarim. They didn't have access to books and mamorim. So what they held on to with all their might, and they knew it well, and they lived with it, and they slept with it, and they davened with it, and they went in the street with it. It was the subject of their discussion. Today, there's an overflow of information. It's talking about the time of the Frierdiker Rebbe, right? So much is published. Yeah. People just go through things. So
it can be kind of overwhelming.
It could be overwhelming, and you see what overwhelming information could do. Yeah. So of course we need to have some type of knowledge of Chassidus, and therefore we need to learn a lot of Chassidus. But I very much hold that if you want to grow in a way that it's going to be transformational, you need to take a mimer. And there's a few maimarim that I would advise, Tfila L'Moshe, which is a Yud Beis Yud Gimel Maimer, even there's a Kuntres Yud Aleph Nissen, in Melukat Hey, Tavshin Chavtes, and Chukas HaTorah, which again is Yud Beis Yud Gimel Tammuz. These are maimarim which change the whole way you look at things. It's incredible. So imagine you taking a maimer and actually learning it, and learning it again. Somebody was asking me, we had it for bringing recently for Gimel Tammuz in my shul, and somebody asked me, I said, sometimes he said he reads the mimer, but he doesn't understand the flow. He says, of course, if you're going to read the mimer once, you're not going to understand the flow. You need to live with this mimer. If you really want to get the flow of questions, you need to review it, you need to ask yourselves questions, you need to discuss it with people.
It almost sounds like though you could have two approaches. It's like, how do you, based on what you're saying, because there's the mimer and then the person learning it. So it's like, let's say if a person is in some kind of limited state, when they're learning it, they're seeing it just through that lens. So, but you're saying the mimer, by meditating on the Chassidus, can change the person, yes. But what about also, how can the person just work on himself? Like we were talking on the way here, the Rebbe talks, and also in Yud Beis Thomas in the first year, the avoda of nisayonos, of you're not working on a physical thing, like when we say a blessing on water and we're drinking it, we're elevating the sparks, but the thing that's worked on is the person. So it's because then the eyes, the person of which learns the mimer, now I'm seeing it in a different way. But that's not necessarily the mimer doing that work on me. It's through other tools working on me.
Okay, so first of all, I remember in Tovshin Nun Beis, I was learning in Manchester, and that's another yeshiva where there was, Baruch Hashem, we were very much encouraged to think Chassidus, and we would daven for hours and hours upon hours. I myself used to daven for an hour and a half, 2 hours every Shachris, and think Chassidus in the middle of davening, and look at the words and understand the words, and so on and so forth. And the Shabbos sometimes till 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I really Gan Eden. It was another dimension, another experience, right? And when I was there, we had twice the visit of Rab Mendel Futafas, Alav Shalom. And I remember going up to Rab Mendel. And me and my best friend, my chaver, Menachem Mendel Amar, the one that sings the nigunim, Gaguim, beautiful, beautiful nigunim that are been revamped in a very modern way, in a very pleasant way that really awakened the neshama. I really advise you to listen to it. It was a shliach in Ashdod. And we ran to Rab Mendel. Says, Rab Mendel, was is a good avodah dika maimer? What's a good mimer of avodah, of working that will help you work on yourself? Mendel, without missing a beat, he answered us, Yeder Maimer is Avodah de Maimer. Every Maimer is a Maimer of Avodah. At the beginning, I didn't understand. You have Amarim, which are more Haskalah, right? In the Likutei Diburim, the Frierdiker Rebbe writes about the difference between a Oived and a maskil, between somebody which is a more intellectual person, rather somebody that works on himself. A maskil steht auf den Kopf, right? The maskil stands on his head. He's in the concepts. But a Oived geht auf den Fies. He goes with his feet. He's always advancing. So if you take a mimer and you take a concept and you really chew it and absorb it, eventually it becomes a mimer that's an avodah mimer. So any mimer will transform you. There's no question about it. It's going to transform the way you think. And then we asked him another question, which seems to be almost opposite to that. We asked him, "Was is the beste achlata?" What is the best resolution you could take? So he said, before Nike said it, he said, the best achlata is maise bepoel. Just do it. Action. It's like on one hand, you have this concept of avodah, right? On the other hand, you have the concept of just do it. Stop overthinking it. This is the generation, if you ask me, of the overthinkers.
I can relate.
We overthink, we get anxiety because we overthink, and we're not able to absorb because we overthink, and everything is too much.
That's the thing. A person could overthink like just the mimers.
Okay. So now there was a chassid of the Rebbe Maharash. His name was Shalzon, or I forgot what his name is right now. It escaped me. The Rebbe Maharash told him to learn to chazer a mimer, I think 600 times, and not do anything till he chazers this mimer 600 times. He took a hotel room.
600 or 60? I think I had 60. 60, 600?
16, I think it was 600. But anyways, I don't know. Maybe I'm mistaken.
More than
what you can handle, what we can handle, right? So he went into a room, and Mendelssohn, if I'm not mistaken, he went into a room, and in a hotel room, he literally went and locked himself up for a long period of time, I think maybe a whole week, till he chazered that mimer this amount of times. Maybe it was 60, I forgot. And he said that when he came out, he didn't see a world. And even years later, his whole mind was changed by that. There was a chassid, Rabbi Chotche the Cheskel Fregen, which was the Shemi Kamdomo. He was the secretary of the Frierdiker Rebbe. He was a mashpia. He was a tremendous Oved Elokim. When he arrived, he was sent by the Frierdiker Rebbe to Torah Semes. He was sent to Eretz Yisrael. And he said, the first thing he said, "Oh, you're thinking, here came Chotche Fagin, right? That Chazard, the Maimer, the Hemshech, Samech Hey, 20 times in his head." Well, you have to know that whatever happened then was then. Today is a new day, and today you have to continue. I once, by curiosity, opened Samech, and I wanted to see how many pages the Hemshech has. It had about 75 pages. And he chazered it like this in his head. And when he writes to his friend in Russia how it is, an account of how it is in Eretz Yisrael versus Russia, he says, it's a mechaye here. You know why? Because in Eretz Yisrael, there's no snow, so the roofs are flat. So you can actually lay on the roof for 9 hours and think Chassidus, without the thought that maybe you're going to fall from the roof or something's going to happen. That's the Chassidim. And I believe that one of the things the Rebbe asked us, in our generation, it's important. It's where we have our head. Where you have your head, that's where you find yourself. So it's a process. Of course, we all have traumas. Today's trauma is the most popular word in the world. There's post-trauma. In Eretz Yisrael, there's no post-trauma, there's trauma, because there's never a time to have post-trauma, right? You're living the trauma all the time. But the drive that I believe that permits us to change and transform the way we operate, like the Rabbi explains that the first sfira, then that the Alter Rebbe explains that the first gilui is chokhmah. So once you start filling your mind in the right place and you start thinking, so the Ma'amarim I learned 30 years ago, when I chazer them today, of course I'm going to see them under a new light and understand that I didn't understand anything. But for then, it was the perfect medicine for me to be able to grow and to go to a much better place. Right? Where you are, where your mind is, that's really where you are. There's a very interesting discussion in the Ragachover concerning, there's two cities. You have Eretz Yisrael and you have Chutz La'aretz. And you have the border. The one that stands at the border, where is he? Is he considered in Eretz Yisrael, or is he considered... So is the border exactly cut half-half, or is it really both of them? So there's a situation which is explained, which is very interesting, where you have two individuals. One is, the two are at the border. One is in Eretz Yisrael, the other one is not. Why? It depends on the direction they're going in. Which means, where your mind is, that's where you are. And I think that's the whole avodah of Chassidus versus Musar. Musar is more about dwelling in the past, dwelling in the trauma, dwelling in the negativity, and dwelling in it, and dealing it, and knocking yourself, and showing how bad it is, and so on and so forth, how much of a blockage it is, and being disgusted by it, and so on and so forth. Chassidus is a tefach hecher, is pashut elevating yourself to another level where suddenly your vision of things is completely different. Like Rav Mendel once explained, says you go to New York and you see the tall buildings, right? But when you go on a plane, the tall building, the Empire State Building, and the small ant, they're all the same. Everything is equal. So really, learning Chassidus is a need for the neshama every day, and thinking Chassidus is the absorbing of that knowledge. And when you're learning the Chassidus of the Rebbe, right, you're attaching his kashrus at the same time. And as it says in Perek Hey, let's not forget what it says in Perek Hey, that this is the greatest yichud she'ein kedugmasoi begashmius, right? This is the greatest level of fusion, unity that you cannot find physically, where you grasp the knowledge grasps you, and your whole perception is different. And I mentioned it in another podcast, what the Mittler Rebbe writes in Derech Chaim, that he says over there, you shouldn't stray after your hearts and your eyes. Why does it say the heart before the eyes? Because a person, he says, only perceives with his eyes what his heart is filled with. So look at the generation that's filled with Instagram and TikTok and all the nonsense in the world, right? 99% of people have their head in nonsense. Of course, what are they going to desire? More nonsense. Give me more, something to excite me more. Right? Maybe I'm a cat today. Maybe I'm a dog. Or maybe I identify myself as something undisclosed. I don't know what I am, but I need something that's going to bring me excitement. When really the whole greatest excitement that could be is when your mind is at another level. It brings peace. It brings calm. So that's thinking Chassidus, it actually makes it absorb. The lesson is absorbed. And when you talk about it, right, like the Rebbe Rashab explains in Hanat, right, that the Maila, the great advantage of speech over thought, right? That thought, when you have your thoughts, Chochma, Bina, but Malchus is nothing. What is Malchus? What is the mouth? The mouth is just a recipient of the intellect and the heart, right? But because it's the lowest level, it's the level of bitul, of complete surrender. It's the ultimate vessel to the essence, which is Keser, which is the crown, which is on top of the head, on top of the intellect. And therefore, the moment you start speaking, your ideas become clearer, and you have a new flow of ideas that are not there before, that weren't there before. So here we have the association between the thought of Chassidus the speaking and the doing, the acting of Chassidus, Darkei Chassidus. You have both of those, right? Just do it, and at the same time, every mimer is Avodah Dika mimer, and suddenly your life is a different life. You know, you go in the elevator, you meet somebody, you talk to them about what does it mean to be an Oshir, right? We could talk about it. It's in the mimer, but so that's one type of thinking, meditating. Then the exercises that I do presently with a lot of people, which I did last night in Seagate, and I'm doing again tonight for another group, is basically, I don't just reduce it to just breathing, because the experience of breathing is great, but that's to prepare the keli, to prepare the vessel. The next step is to actually bring ideas of Chassidus that will bring you attached to Hashem's unity. And today, it's like putting a little candle in a very dark room, because there's so much, sometimes dark thoughts or foolish thoughts, right? Foolishness of the ksil, right? Is the foolish one is so great, because there's so much stuff that we see and we absorb. And just having that is just puts your mind, back into shape. But sometimes we need to, first of all, calm ourselves. And
so it is different than actual the Chassidus. Like you're saying now, the Chassidus is a thing you put once the mind is clear.
Correct.
But earlier it sounded like you're saying it also clears.
Of course, it's going to clear the mind as well. Somebody once, a Chassidish Polish Rebbe once told me, we were talking about the importance of learning Soides HaTorah, the secrets of Torah. And he said, but some people say that they're not a keli their keli is not clean enough to learn Soides HaTorah. So he said, when you make Kiddush on a cup, there's a mitzvah, you should clean the cup, you should wash it, right? You should wash it with water. If you don't have water, you could use wine to wash it as well. Which means, when your keli is not, you feel it's not pure enough or calm or whatever to be able to receive the higher level of knowledge, use Chassidus in order to be able to make it a keli,
That's a good word.
To clean the keli. So, yes, you were saying.
Well, so perhaps we can go back a bit. How did you get into, and can you talk about then the breathwork exercises? I also did, I shared with you before, the only experience I had before with breathwork was, like I mentioned to you, when I first was at Dr. Joe Dispenza's retreat, before I was just early on growing in my Yiddishkeit. And that was talking about, apparently it was connected to Kundalini, whatever, that is, which was drawing up energy from lower centers up into the brain. But he attempted to use language not associated with any of these spiritual practices to not divide an audience. Because also these words, when we hear these different words, we have our own preconceived notions about it, and it can stimulate fear and keep somebody from actually doing it. But then as I was growing in Judaism, that there are talks about that, some of this stuff isn't kosher. So perhaps we could, with all of that, also I had gone to different breathworks in our community. One that had, because it was the first time I was trying it out, there were women there and others that are just by men. And it's, there is this also concept of, following halacha and making sure everything is kosher. So second part of this, sorry, I know my questions have a lot of information with them, but can something like that, let's say a concern, let's say if you do an event or do a breathwork event, because I remember also when I did it, meditation retreats, before I was really growing in Yiddishkeit, I didn't have the concern there's other women and people around, or even is this kosher? And therefore it was I felt like I was able to get past certain layers. But then now, once it's a concern, is it real, or is it just kind of like a noise keeping the person from getting past those layers.
The reason I had 2 seminars, because I had one for women and one for men, that's why I asked for that specifically. The Frierdiker Rebbe writes to somebody, or says to somebody, that to add that, why is Beinenus meditation should be specifically before davening? Why not just like this in the middle of the day? Frierdiker Rebbe writes, or answers him, that once you are misboinen, you start contemplating, you're tapping into your emotions. So you're unveiling the emotions. Having unveiled emotions without something to own you down, to keep you focused and where to drive these emotions, like tefillah, towards Hashem, or towards a mitzvah, or towards something practical, it could just leave it open, and once it's open, it's possible that it could go to the wrong place. When people are emotional, they could, God forbid, feel comfortable. So imagine a situation where you have a breathwork session, you have men and women there, and it's the break, but everybody's hearts are open, right? And somebody is in that sensitive, delicate spot. God forbid what could happen. I mean, it's just like you're playing with fire somewhere, somewhat. You understand? So that's number one. Number two, concerning these different retreats, it says, "V'atem tilu eretz chefetz." It says on Yom Yom, I think it brings down in the name of the Baal Shem Tov, "You will be for me a cherished land." We are made of earth. Adam Yesodo me'afar. Inside of us, Or Zaru al Tzadik, the Eibishter planted a neshama. When we go to the depth, first of all, of the physical, mental, intellectual, emotional potential that we have, it's tremendous. As human beings, it's already tremendous. And you see how busy this area of work, coaching, and so on and so forth, and performance is important in the world, and is becoming more and more important. This is a direct result of Chassidus being introduced to the world. Let's not fool ourselves. So the problem becomes that in a lot of these practices, they're going to start associating different things to who we are. Which means they'll call it chakras, right? Chakras, the different chakras.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't know which word. Does it remind you of a word? The word chakra.
I know that
in Hebrew.
No.
Sheker.
Ah.
No. Okay.
That's funny. I remember hearing like in yoga. In yoga, you have the word shavasana, which comes from Shabbos.
Yeah, or reiki, from the word reik, emptiness.
Wow.
All right. I'll tell you a story. That happened to me some 4 years into my shlichus. 4 years into my shlichus, I have 2 Israeli rabbis. We're starting Hidabrut, and they were starting, these seminars to bring people closer. So there is a non-Jewish professor which made a study on the aura. And he produced a camera that is able to see the aura of a person, and when a person puts their hand on this electromagnetic thing, it communicates, and you're able to see the aura of a person. And they did the experience with many, many people. They wanted to try it with me. Okay, so please. And according to the colors of the aura, it's a real thing, colors of the aura, you see where a person is standing. If it's more red, he's more into materialism, right? If it's more gold or segol or purple, right? It's much higher level. If it's white, it's.
You probably met some people that say
they see auras. Yeah.
I've had these retreats. I've met plenty of people.
So
or they even saw the chakras.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you what's interesting. Is that in their study, They took a person that put on pasul tefillin, and they looked at his aura. They took a person that put on tefillin before the tefillin and after the tefillin, and you could see the difference of color in the aura. They took a rabbi, the Kalev Rebbe, alav shalom, and they took his aura, and it was, it was shining in a very, very special way. And then they took these Hindus that are able not to breathe for half an hour. They put their head in the ground, right, for half an hour, right? And you would think that they're at a holiest level. They were the darkest possible type of aura. Why? Because it's the opposite of holiness. There's emek rum and emek tachas. There's the depth of the highest level, right? And then
depth of the lowest.
Depth of the abyss. Right? And the depth of the abyss is basically where you get your chayas from klipa, from the negative forces. So they even took a woman that went to a bathhouse, to take a bath, and that same woman afterwards, when she went to the mikveh.
Like a regular bath?
Yeah, she went to a real, and we saw the difference. You could see the difference in aura. There is things that might seem wonderful, right? But who says it's from Kedusha?
So even with those, let's say, monks, they do study also their brain waves, and they seem to be at a level of...
It's not because your brain wave is at a higher level, right? That, if you take a drug, if you take cocaine, I believe that your brain waves too will be at a very high level. Does it mean that you're
or
in a
even
good
at
place?
some level of calm?
Yeah, do you understand what I'm saying? So the bottom line is, where do I get my source from, right? Lo ha-mesim ya'alelu ka, right? It says now we started Gilsa Tshuva, right? The dead will not praise you. What is that? Or loig la'arash, the Alter Rebbe asked, are we making fun of the dead, that they're not able to do the mitzvahs and praise you? No. The dead are the living dead. We're talking about the people that are alive, but they get their vitality from things which are negative. Reish Lakish, the Gemara says that he was able to jump from one edge of the lake to the other edge of the lake. That's the powers, the superpowers he had. The moment that he agreed to marry the wife, agreed to marry the sister of Yochanan, right, Rabbi Yochanan, he at this moment, and he decided, okay, I'm going to do tshuva. He didn't have the powers anymore. He lost all his powers. What happened? Yeah. Right, there's stories of the Baal Shem Tov about this as well. Right, there's if I may, two stories Rab Mendel brings down, and he associates the two stories together. Some say both stories are with the Baal Shem Tov. That one day the Baal Shem Tov was in a city, and there were a lot of opponents to Chassidus, and somebody was running after his carriage as he was leaving the city with an axe and wanted to kill him. So the Baal Shem Tov said to the driver, with the horses, we need to go faster, he's coming after us. The big question is, Rebbe, you're such a big tzaddik, just look at him with your eyes and nase gal shlatzomis, make him, neutralize him. The Baal Shem Tov answered, from the sincerity of a Jew, I'm scared. Which means he wants to kill him, but he has such sincerity, he's so emes, he's doing l'shem shamayim, right? There's an element of emes that against that I have no power. Then again, the Rab Mendel brings another story of the one day they went through a city and they told him about a certain parush, right? There used to be people which would push him. They would fast from Motzei Shabbos to Shabbos, and they would learn Torah all day. So Erev Shabbos, there was a stone right next to the door, the mikveh entrance. And there that parush would sit down and everybody would say, Good Shabbos Tzaddik, Good Shabbos Parush, Good Shabbos Kadosh, Good Shabbos Goyen, Good Shabbos, whatever you want. So the Baal Shem Tov heard about it. He said to his Chassidim, take away the stone in the middle of the week. They took away the stone. The Parush this Friday didn't have anywhere where to go. Where am I going to sit? So he didn't go. The next week he passed away. They asked the Baal Shem Tov what happened. He says his whole chayis was from all the covet he got on Friday. All the mitzvahs he was doing was coming from Klippa. So to say, it was just for the sake of covet. He was living off that. So when we talk about kashrus, for example, people say, oh, this is organic and this is not kosher. So what is better? If I ask you a glass of water or a can of Coke, you're going to tell me a glass of water. If I tell you what's better, a glass of water that comes from the nuclear base over there. What was the in Chernobyl? Yes, in Chernobyl, right? From Chernobyl, right? After there was this nuclear explosion, or a can of Coke. You're going to tell me the can of Coke is much better. There's no question about it. It's 10 times better. It will get me sick. This will not. I mean, it'll get me less sick. Which means there's what we see on the outside, and then there's the vitality, the Alter Rebbe writes, right? In Perek Vav, in Perek Zayin, Ches, in the vitality that actually brings it into life. Mm-hmm. So, and as Yidden, you have a Sefer HaTanya, when this Jew that worked for the Rolling Stones, it's one of the most impressive videos, when you see that this Jew that went off the derech, worked for the Rolling Stones, and he was looking for God, and Rabbi Gurari, sent him to the Rebbe, and he was by the Rebbe's door, and by the Rebbe's, when the Rebbe came out of the car, he was there, and he asked us, Rebbe, I can ask a question, right? He says, where is God? He says, God? Everywhere. He says, no. Where is God? He says, God in your heart. But if it's the same God to the Indian people, to these people, and to the Jews, what is the difference? He says, God. The Rebbe answered, I'm not quoting perfectly, but you should see the video. It's something very special. Really something special on Gem. And he says over there, the Rebbe answers him, God is what he is to the Indian, what he needs to be to the Indian. And but to the Jew, what is God? It's the attachment for Torah and mitzvahs. Comes the Alter Rebbe. And he gave us Tanya. In Tanya, you have all of the mechanism of your physical body, your animal soul, the way it is parallel to the godly soul. And Chassidus expounds on it and everything. Why in the world would I want to look for something that's only going to give me the first layer when I can go to the deepest possible layer? Do you understand? So in a sense, and again, I'm not saying that there's no good in doing that. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of good in healing the body. I mean, I myself, I will tell you, I went and I did a transformational breath work with an 84-year-old coach in Yerushalayim. I was sent by a Rav, and it was transformational. There's no question that it liberated me, right? But imagine if I tell you exercise is your purpose to exercise. If you want to be a basketball player, then definitely. If you want to be Lionel Messi, and you want, of course, that's going to be your career. This is going to be the purpose of your life. The exercise, the good eating, the healthy habits you're going to have are all there to prepare you in order to fulfill your purpose. Mm-hmm. What is your purpose? Your purpose is to use all of your talent and fulfill your mission in the world in order to spread Hashem in the world, in order to connect to Him, in order to live at the highest possible level you can live. You understand? And I understand that there are situations where people need healing from severe trauma and they'll need to go and do certain things, right? But that again needs to be a temporary passageway to something higher. Mm-hmm. In our day and age, would I advise a person to take the time and have a routine in breathing and exercising? Absolutely. My student, which I sent to many seminars around the world, and got certified as a transformational breath coach. When he was in Miami, every morning I used to go to the beach. I live across the street from the beach, and at 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, when I woke up, I would do a 15-minute routine. It was tremendous because just getting that air inside, and that's just a part of self-care.
Yeah.
But after I had that energy, right, I didn't need coffee, I didn't need anything. My consciousness, my calm, my inner calm, my being present was better. But again, it's not that I'm going to do this all day, because like the Rebbe writes, if a person that is well is going to start involving himself all day, then he's going to get sick. You can become crazy afterwards. Right? It's just a question of do a few of these routines to be able to get yourself out of where you are, and from time to time, keep that boost, get that boost in a kosher way, obviously, and then maybe having a routine that's going to permit you to connect and just ease up, just like the story of the person that went to the forest and he sees somebody cutting trees, right, with his saw. And it's not an electric saw, so he tells him, what's the matter with you? Stop for 15 minutes and sharpen your saw. He says, what do you mean? I don't have time. I only cut 3 trees today. Yesterday I was able to cut 6 already at this hour. He says, you're a fool. Take that time to sharpen your saw, and then, things are going to happen.
I feel like that can be related even to myself and other people, like in yeshiva. Like you're learning all day. Like it can also get to a point that it seems like you're kind of distracting yourself, or you need to sharpen that saw as well by maybe easing off a bit, or taking a breather and sharpening the saw, so then when you go back to it.
100%. I believe so as well. And I believe that I said before that I didn't like Likutei Sichos when I was in yeshiva. The reason I didn't like Likutei Sichos, of course, at the beginning there was the language barrier, but that after a few months went away, is because the way it was learned was like this. My Rosh Yeshiva once called me over and he asked me, does your Chavrusa understand? I said, I believe so. He says, because a goat has a white beard and does this all day and doesn't understand a thing. I felt that the way we're learning Likutei Sichos, which is a treasure beyond any treasure that the past generations have received since the Rambam. It's like a treasure chest, that never-ending treasure. And to read it like this, just like I couldn't get it. Today, I'm with my chavrusa for years now. We've been learning sichos at a pace. I learn every day. I have a chavrusa. If I didn't have that, I don't know what I would do. I have an hour chavrusa. We learn the sichos in depth. We open the different Marim Mekarimis, the different references, the Ushalmi, the Ripello, the Rabbi Yosef Engel, the Ragotshover, the Shlomo Zevin, Hora Alocha, and the Marsho, and the whatever we need to open, we open. And we take the time to learn it. And then we see the Chiddush of the Rebbe as Sicha, one Sicha. It goes back to what I was saying with the Maimer, just in learning as well. Take your time. I understand in yeshiva we need to cover ground. Reb Chaim Brisker says on the pasuk Lev Chacham Nimino Lev Ksilis Moilo. There's the intelligent heart is on the right side, the Yitzhak Tov, and the Yitzhak Hara, the foolish heart is on the left side. It says when you learn and you want to go to the left and finish the Masechta or finish whatever you're learning, that's a foolish thing. Just go to the right and chazer it. Know if you really know it well. I think it's unacceptable that we've learned so many years in yeshiva and we go out with nothing in our hands. Why? I rather, what I have. The whole in of Chochmah Bina Das is that what I have. Yeah. So if I want to learn, I learn a Maimer, I want to know that I know this Maimer in and out. When I learned the Daf Gemara, Blat Gemara, when I learned the Sicha, I want to know what the question is, and I'm not going to start stuttering when somebody asks me, but that doesn't that contradict whatever? What are you talking about? I'm living this Sicha already for a month, 2 months. We just did a Siyum on Erkin, not a Siyum, the Hadran on Erkin, Chelek Chav Beis, Perek Vav Ala Chovav. We spent 15 hours just learning the Rambam in order to be able to understand the first 2 lines of the halacha, of what the Rebbe is saying, what the Rebbe is asking. And we have bachim that are just going through like this as if they understood. What are you talking about? Are we talking about cherem gavoya? What are you talking about? Yeah. So I think we have to stop, just going through the movements. Okay, 1 second. Am I absorbing this? Do I know this? Of course you need to cover ground, but you need to get out with something, right? And that's, I think, a part of why a lot of people are getting discouraged, So taking the time, calming ourselves down, take a deep breath. It's okay, 1 line at a time, 1 question at a time. You're starting, you're about tshuva, everybody's about tshuva, I was learning with somebody this morning from a From Lubavitcher home, and I saw that he's having difficulties translating the words. I think it's unacceptable that a bacher that went to yeshiva is already 20, 21, right, is still having these difficulties. Maybe we need to go back to certain basis and, just go back to the foundation. But that wasn't the discussion of this podcast. I'm just pouring what's on my heart.
To your point, I remember actually, it's kind of feels embarrassing to say, but last year we were at the yeshiva, we were at the camp this time of the year. They go up to a summer camp where we learn, continue the same schedule for the most part. And I remember kind of I'm in a beautiful environment, but feeling stressed because it's so much learning, like you're saying. It wasn't until Tisha B'Av, when you can't learn, we don't learn, that I felt like I could breathe. I was like, wow. And I remember watching also that video where the Rebbe says turn over the world today, right? And it it brought me to tears, and I was like, this feels so strange, because you're immersing within the Torah and this holy work, whether it's Chassidus or just Gemara and whatever it is. But it's I couldn't learn there, and I was just able to go sit outside, even though I was fasting as well, and felt like.
There's a ratzoy and there's shoiv, right? Yeah. The whole thing of breathing is. Yeah.
That's the ebb. That's what the podcast is. Ebb and flow. It's a translation of Ratz v'Shuv.
How do you call it?
Ebb and flow.
Ebb and flow. Beautiful.
How the you said the ocean, because also I can give you a little share quick about that, but it's holistic health podcasts. So it's how do we get into the zone? How do we get into our flow where we're aligned physically, mentally, and spiritually? Because then when we're in that state, there's whenever those ebb moments, when those what I'm even mentioning, or God forbid something worse, we don't react to it. We're able to be in that state of flow regardless of the circumstances. Right?
Talking about the zone, some people could call it to be Zen, others call it to be in the zone. Where does it come from? Did you everything? It's Chassidus. What is the whole concept of being in the zone? It means that my inside and my outside are in perfect balance, right? There's no gap. That's yichud zun, za venukva. It's the yichud between zeir anpin, which are the emotions, and nukva, which is malchus, which is the expression. Mm-hmm. Right? Kucha beruchu shchinte. You're in the zone. That's being in the zone. It's all in Chassidus. It's not, and I know that people are going to laugh at this, they're going to start. It's okay. You can laugh. I believe that everything is in Torah, everything is in Chassidus. And it's a question of having the right guides to do it and to make it happen. But so to go back, yes, I think it's a very good practice to take the time to breathe. They didn't listen to Moshe because they had a shortness of breath. Today people don't breathe. The breathing is very, very shallow. It's very, a third of our lungs is used. And as we breathe deeply, I can tell you that it frees a person's mind. So it's really, I think, a great healthy tool. You don't need ketamine, you don't need ayahuasca, you don't need drugs.
Just maybe lion's mane chaga mushroom.
Okay, it's like a natural resource, right? The spirit of Mashiach is that breath of air, right? So take that breath of air and then take it easy. And sometimes, when the Rabbi would write to people that had difficulties, you were talking about having an overload, right? So he says, when you see that it's too much, you go from Gemara, you go to Chassidus, you go to something else, and then, You learn
Sometimes
for
he would also say, like, do more.
shorter, yeah. But I want to tell you, somebody came to the Rebbe by dollars and said, Rebbe, you asked that we should add in Torah. I don't have more time. Yeah. The Rebbe said, I mean quality. You know?
Yeah.
If I asked you, what does today Chumash say? What does Rashi mean? Are you able to answer that question? Oh, we just went through it. You know, I always joke about the Lubavitcher, the Chabad Siddur, Tilas Hashem, it has benching right after Shachris. Why? For those who ate the words. You ate the words, you have to bench afterwards, right? It's not about going through it. It's how much is going through me. You know, having your personal experience. And it's okay at a certain point to take certain things at your pace. Even if you have a Seder in Yeshiva, take something on the side, maybe a mimer, where you're going to open the references, or Sikha, and this is going to be your personal connection. Yeah. Has nothing to do with you share. Nice. Okay?
Nice. I think we're coming close to the end. Perhaps you could share a little bit of, like, I'm coming to the experience tonight, which I'm looking forward to. What's the kind of breath work that you're going to teach?
So it's going to be transformational breath work. And transformational breathing is different than somatic and all this stuff. I actually had yesterday a somatic practitioner, and she herself said it was another experience. Right?
She came as a participant.
She came as a participant, wow. Yeah. And she said it was actually, I had two of them, two nice. People and it was a different experience. It's a different type of breathing that really forces you to reach areas of your body that the diaphragm and deeper areas that you, through that practice in the way of exhaling, right? It is a way of exhaling, which permits you to actually reach areas which are blocked and where oxygen never got there. So it's something very special, and of course it awakens certain emotions at the same time. And what I do is, after we do that practice, as I said before, I want to bring it to practicality. I get everybody to sit down and to start writing their vision of life. And I'm a very big believer in that. When you write your vision on paper of what your mission is and where you want to go, and especially now we're a few months before Rosh Hashanah, it happens. I did it myself years ago. And I see how things that I write down actually happen.
Yeah.
You know, I'll share with you something maybe more personal. I once had, unfortunately, a few tragedies happen in the community. An individual took his own life, and then somebody else that's very cherished to the community passed away, and then there was another thing. And my wife saw that I'm not in my element. I'm emotionless, and it's the opposite of who I am. She said, I know you like skiing, so go away. Just go for a ski trip by yourself for a day, 2 days. So I went to Keystone for 2 days. I said Ya'aleh V'Yo. I was going up and down the mountain, so it's a bracha you say on skiing, right? So my kids are going to kill me for this joke. They say, Rabbi, Daddy, you had to be corny on online. So, and it was terrible. I was really going through a moment of depression. Really, it's hard when you're a rabbi and you're hearing so many problems and you're living them and you take it to heart. And I was going up and down the mountain. You know, I had made a playlist of certain books and at the same time certain musics. I couldn't feel anything, but I just exerted myself. I really put myself on the slopes with the kavana to exert myself, get as much good air from the mountains. I love the mountains, and get good oxygen and really force my body. At the end of 2 days, I contacted my chavrusa from California, and I was working with Skype at the time. I told him, Levi, start writing down. I have a lot of stuff I need to download. And I just let my soul pour itself. And I said, this is what I want to accomplish. I wanted to accomplish at the time to record a Dvar Torah on all the parshas of the Torah in English, Hebrew, Spanish, and French. So I did it, Baruch Hashem. The French I didn't finish. I said what I'm going to delegate to my secretary and what I'm never doing again. And I put all the stuff that I wanted, right? And it was a refresher, and afterwards I was able to go back, When I was in Manchester, I had that, I just remembered, I had that overload of learning, And I went to Leeds for 2 days. And I spent 2 days in Leeds with Rabbi Refson, Alav Shalom. And we learned together. And it was at my pace and everything. It gave me energy to be able to continue and go back. Sometimes, you need a little break, but the purpose of the break is to come back. It's not to just leave. Exactly. Like the Rebbe writes in the letter, it's called environmental psychology. You get out of your area, not to leave, but in order to get a greater appreciation of what you need to do in that area.
Like what's that? The Rabbi some Chassid once said, "I'm running from you to you." You familiar with it? No, I don't.
Who is that? Rabbi Yitzchak Overdishev?
Maybe. I remember. I once time. I remember. I once felt it myself because it's also with basketball, with Yiddishkeit, with different things. It's like you feel like you have to leave it, but really you're just changing your perspective. You come back in a wholesome way.
So, just to conclude, I would say to where Yud Beis Tammuz today.
Yeah, please. Yeah, please, can you share a little bit about Yud Beis Tammuz and what it means also personally? How, for people that are watching that don't necessarily know so much about even Chabad and Chassidus and what Yud Beis Tammuz, the 12th day of the month of
12th and 13th day of Tammuz.
13th, yeah.
The day that the birthday of the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe and the liberation of jail.
I didn't know it was his birthday.
Yes, correct.
Wow.
And very special. I mean, first of all, at a personal level, I the first time I saw the Rebbe was on Yud Beis Tammuz and Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz, and the Rebbe came into 770 very late at night for Mincha, and I stood there seeking the Rebbe's eyes, and the Rebbe stopped for a quick second, a fraction of a second, looked at me in the eyes, and that moment appeared like eternity. It was something very, very special. I have it on video and whatever. I'm not going to share more than that. But Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz was a very, very special day for me personally. But why should we be affected by Yud Beis Gimel Tammuz? I mean, Yeah. I'm from a Sephardic home. What does that have to do with me? Well, when you think about it, there's a Rebbe in Russia by the name of Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, the Friedrich Rebbe. What did he do? He fought communism. He fought an ideology which is one of atheism. And in 1927, it was Purim, he got up knowing that there are agents of the KGB and KVD. And he said, I don't care how much you're going to teach these children in the underground network of yeshivot. What I do care about is that whatever you teach them, the aleph that you teach them and the base that you teach them is authentic. It's in accordance with the authenticity of our Torah and not reformed, not changed in order to be adapted. At the time you have this leader which inspires people to go out, know that if they're caught, they will be put to jail or camp or shot to death. And when this happens, there's another soldier, another Lubavitcher Chassid that's ready to put himself on the line in order to continue what was given to us from Moshe Rabbeinu all the way to today. That type of Mesiras Nefesh, where he himself was caught and put in jail and tortured and suffered and so on and so forth. And by miracle, his death sentence was put away and transformed into a sentence of exile on Gimel Tammuz, and then Yud Beis Tammuz, he is liberated. He finally comes to America. You understand that this Mesirus Nefesh, that self-sacrifice, that that's saying, you know what, Torah is something that it's something that you have to give your life for. That's what makes our generation live. During a generation that's post-Holocaust, you come here to the world, and what are you going to do? You're just going to hide because you're scared to be a Jew. And you have a Yid that's strong and says no. Comes to America in a wheelchair, and he says what he's going to do. He's going to send shluchim. He sends his first shluchim to Morocco. And I saw recently the account of a writer that says that he went to all the cities and the little mountains and the little villages, and there was a Chabad person, a teacher that was there to teach the children. I was thinking to myself, I'm Moroccan myself, why Morocco? Because in Morocco you had very, very pure people with a tremendous emunah in Hashem, and unfortunately what's called the Alliance and the Aliyat HaNoah took hundreds of thousands of Moroccans and started playing with their brains, right? Brought them to kibbutzim, which are not religious. And if it wasn't for Mesirut Nefesh, for the self-sacrifice of Chabad, there would be no Judaism. And this is not, I didn't say it. The son of Baba Salih said it to his grandson. I know for a fact. Baba Meir said to his grandson that if it wasn't for the Mesirut Nefesh, the self-sacrifice, it's one thing to have emunah pshuta, to have a simple faith in Hashem. It's another thing to be ready to give your life and die for certain principles which don't go exactly in the authenticity of Torah. Mm-hmm. So what we're celebrating today, right, is the authenticity of Torah continuing and seeing what you see with the Rebbe, which took it to another level altogether. I'd like to conclude with a story that brought me to tears. And I want to thank Rabbi Shmotkin from GEM with incredible work that he's doing in spreading the Rebbe's word. One or two videos on this you can find on GEM, where Torah Vedas was the only yeshiva that existed, a Litvish yeshiva that existed in America when the Frierdiker Rebbe arrived. They were about to lose their building, and they publicized in the newspapers if somebody could save the building, because they're going to lose the building. The Frierdiker Rebbe, which had just arrived to America, didn't have any of its institutions yet set, and he asked his secretary to call them and ask them how much it was. I think it was in the order of $15,000 at the time, a tremendous amount of money in the 40s. When they heard who's asking, they said he didn't even build his institutions. He's on a wheelchair. He just came back out of prison from Russia. He's not going to be able to help us. A few weeks later, or I don't know how long, the secretary comes with an envelope and says, "This is from the Frierdiker Rebbe." And it's a loan. The Frierdiker Rebbe took a loan to be able to save the yeshiva. They were appalled. They said, and if you want to know why he took a loan, he doesn't have his own institutions. He said, if in Russia I was ready to give my life in order to save Judaism there, when I finally come to America and there's a place that keeps the authenticity of Torah, I'm not going to do Mesiras Nefesh. America is nicht anders. America is no different. And that's the lesson we have to take from today. We might be Americans, we might be in America in the free land, but the Frierdiker Rebbe taught us that freedom is not a place on the map. You can be in Russia and know you're going to be killed if you keep or teach Torah and still do it. You can be in America, have the possibility to keep everything and be so overwhelmed by the materialism that you're not keeping anything. So is freedom a place on the map, or is freedom a state of mind? The Frierdiker Rebbe taught us that freedom is a state of mind, and the Rebbe taught us in the Maimer Tefillah Moshe that wealth is about giving. It's not what you have, it's what you're ready to give. So I think this is the call of the hour. We have to give whatever we can to bring Mashiach and finish the mission that the Rebbe gave us, and be the best of ourselves, and reach the true heights that will bring us to the ultimate breath, the breath of Mashiach.
Amen.
Ruach shel Mashiach, amen.
Thank you so much for taking your time to come speak with me and in this awesome studio. Thank you, Yossi, as well.
Thank you so much. God bless you. Much success.
Amen.